Hello, crafters. I am so glad that you stopped by today. We are continuing with our series on card making. As I said last week, today we will be looking at punch tools, not the tools you would learn in a boxing rink. Oh no, these are card making punch tools that you can use to add depth, texture, color. There are punches of many forms, shapes, and sizes, even with very little experience, or know-how. You can also achieve some amazing results with these little tools. So what do you think? Let's get down to my desk and get started. These are basic shape punches from different manufacturers. They all punch a different shape using metal die cutters that are inside of the punch. These dies come together when you push the lever, and the paper gets trapped in here, and the shape is punched out by this second piece right here. And they are so much fun, and they're very easy to use. So let me show you. So we'll use the same punch. Let's grab a piece of paper, move these guys out of the way. All you have to do is there's a slit in the side of this one that the paper feeds into, and you just push down the lever, and you have a little square and a negative piece. The way that I and most crafters use our punches is upside down. And the reason we do that is a lot of times when we're creating shapes out of these punches, we'll do multiples of them from the same sheet of paper. And seeing the back of it, as you can see, I can get super close to the one that I cut before, and it gets me a lot of the same shape out of one sheet of paper. Just a small little piece of scrap that came from bin, and I have all these little shapes to play with. So that being said, this same square punch has a couple other uses. One of the things that you can do with this guy is you can take this guy, and he is a square, but you can take it and turn a square into a rectangle just by feeding. You know what size it is. It does say it on the bottom. It's 3/4 inches. So just by feeding a 3/4 inch piece in and making a slice, you have a rectangle. And you can use this to place a stamp on as a sentiment. You can also, with this guy, you can make a little banner. You line your paper up to the center of it in the back and punch, and you have a little banner that you can also put on a card with a sentiment coming this way, depending on how long it is. And it's fun. So I showed you quite a few things that you could do with the square punch, and I am so sure that there are others. If you search YouTube, I'm sure you're going to be able to find more uses for this stamp. This guy is one of my favorites. It's by Dress My Craft, and it makes this really cute little hexagon. And what I have done with this guy is, I need a bigger piece. What I've done with this guy is I have cut out multiple pieces. I will take paper and I will layer it like so, because you can punch more than one sheet of paper at a time. I'll layer it like so. I'll look at it. Let me clear that. Look at it from the bottom of the punch, just like I said before, so we get the most cuts for our buck. And push the bottom out. And I wouldn't do any more than 3 sheets because this is kind of tight. Push the bottom out like so. I'll do one more. There we go. That gives me a few. And then I can take a card base And I can line these guys up on the card base like so and create a lot of dimension in here for my card. Whoops, for my card base. Everything is flinging away from me. They do. They create a ton of dimension. You can use a different colored cardstock if you want to. You can leave the border uncut, or you can just kind of stagger them against the edge like so, and then cut this piece off. You can squeeze other pieces in between them like this. I think you get the idea. But I can create an entire card base with a punch that has a lot of dimension, maybe use my little flag piece as a sentiment going across it, and I have a wonderful card with a lot of dimension and very little effort. So these guys can be so much fun. When I first started collecting punches, I would spend hours just trying to figure out the different things that I could do for them. And one of the things that we did, I brought a couple stacks over. One of the things that we did so we could tell, what punches we had, what shapes they made, is we made these little cards on rings with both the negative piece, because I'm going to show you a couple things we can do with that in just a moment, and the piece that the punch cuts. So this tells and shows us every punch that we have over in our punch bin. So this allows us, to put it over to a card. Oh, I use this for a raindrop, or I'll use this for that. So we made stacks of these. That's how we know what we have over there. One of my favorite stamps that we have for this time of year is this little leaf. He is so cute. And what I do with this is I'm going to show you something really cool. Another thing that you can do with a punch is I'm going to punch out 3 of these guys pretty far away from each other. Okay, put that aside. Set those there. And now let me get something to put under this. I already stamped a little branch for us, and I'm going to pull out a few colors of ink that we have that kind of goes along with fall. And what I'm going to do, going to take each one of these that I punched out, and we are going to create some leaves. I'm going to use this as a stencil. And when leaves are falling off a tree, they're kind of curled. These are not, so you kind of have to make it work, and we can. And what I'll do is I will just use this as a stencil to get my leaves. And the reason I cut out 3 of them is because you really shouldn't go over top of another color that you just used, because you certainly could contaminate your entire stamp pad. And that is not something that we want to do. There's my yellow. And now let's get an orange one, maybe down here. That looks pretty. And then what we'll do to add some dimension is we'll take a tweezer and we'll grab these guys by the stem, and we'll take our color. Again, we'll start with the green. Get that on here nice and good. And then we'll do the next one, which is yellow. Oops, get that out of the way. Yellow on there. And then we'll do orange. Probably just hold it down. Okay. Close these up so they don't dry out. This ink dries pretty quick. Move those out of the way. Clean those off. Now, I'm going to give those a couple seconds to dry. And I'm going to grab my multi-liner. Because on these, you can do some little veins if you wanted to, kind of give them more of a realistic look. This isn't necessary. I'm just letting them dry, actually. Okay. And now what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to curl them just a little bit, not a lot. Push them in. So I don't really want them to stand up because I didn't color the back. So apply some glue. And then we could scatter these around as well. So we'll have some in the background and some that have a little more of a textured finish on them. This one that way. And then we'll do this guy. Little glue. And put him this way. Now, one of the things you can do is you could take a multi-liner and you could show that they are falling by giving them just a few little wind pushes or whatever. Make them look like they're falling. You could draw some veins in these if you wanted to. Not necessary, but you could. Some punches actually do have what's called an embossing to them, where they'll do both. They would add like the veins to these leaves, and they would also punch out the shape that we wanted. So now I could just take this base. I just really wanted to show you how quickly you can do something with a single paper punch and make a difference on a card. And I think that this is going to be super cute. So then we'll pop this on top. Plus, when I do these card making videos, I actually do want to make a card in each one, at least one card. And then we'll pop that on there, take our bone folder and brayer it down so the glue spreads, making sure we don't flatten out our little leaves. And all I would need is a sentiment, and I could actually do the whole tag thing that we were doing with the other punch. But isn't this super cute? I mean, it really is cute. We could put autumn on it, or fall, or happy fall, whatever you want to put on it. And that would give you a cute little card. Now, this guy he's a decorative one. It might be hard to see him. There you go. Because I have a big bright light above me that apparently I need to adjust. So what I'm going to do with this guy is, this one's different. You can't see the bottom of this. This comes out. So you could if I took it out. But in doing that, I'm not going to be able to line up the corner. Because if you look, this guy has a piece here and a piece here. And these pieces is where the corner of the paper goes into. And then you punch and you get this design. Isn't that pretty? It's really nice for photos. This is one of the things that I like to do when I'm matting a photo for a folio or even a card. And when you put it on top of another sheet, that color kind of pokes through right there. It's very elegant. It's very pretty. I've done wedding albums with it. I've done thank you cards with it. I've done all kinds of stuff with it. These guys work the same way, but what they do is they provide a round corner. This guy does one size. This little man does. And this guy's from Dress My Craft. He's so cute. This guy does a different corner. So you have, a larger one, a smaller one, all different. You can find so many corner bunches. It's insane. Now, these guys are my go-to. They're simple. I can keep them at my desk. Those guys become a little cumbersome to store on top of your desk. This one does a stub punch and a scallop punch. So let's go to my corner rounder. This corner rounder is 3/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch. So it is bigger than both of these guys, the ones that we were just working with. This is a little bit bigger. So what you do with these, they have these little wings that pop open like this. This part right here comes up so that you can empty out your little corners, because they don't come out of the crocodile. This is called a crocodile. So the way you use this, you could do more than one of these. We're just going to do one. So because I'm doing one, I want to make sure, first of all, when you're opening these, there's one click and then there's a second click. So you want to make sure it clicks twice when you do it. So I'm going to line my corner up in here, and I'm going to push down on the back of it and punch. And there you go. And this side does a smaller corner. Running out of corners here. This guy does a smaller corner round. Oops, I didn't do something right. There we go. So as you can see, they just do these little rounds. Now, why would I want this? Because cards look very pretty when they're matted with the rounded corners. They're not as sharp. They're softer, a little more elegant than just a straight corner. Now, this one does what's called a stub punch and a scallop punch. And there are more of these out there. These are just the two that I have right now. This one is the stub punch. Again, I'm going to line it up, push it in, hold it there, and punch. So that kind of gives a really nice mat for a photo, come to think of it. And then we can do the scallop punch on the other side, and that looks like this. So there are lots and lots of corner punches that we have, which is why I have a ring with a little thing on it showing what it is. You know, this is a large corner rounder, corner chomper. This means that it's one of these guys. So DMC is Dress My Craft, which is the one I just showed you. And it just demonstrates what each piece does, because not everyone has all of this at a desk. Colleen has some, Penelope has some, and then I have my bigger ones over here. Another thing that We Are puts out, which is really cool, are these guys. Now, what these guys do is they have a mechanism in them that allows these pieces here to turn. And you can get all different kinds of punches at all different kinds of paper holes out of this one. This one does a 1/16, a 1/8, a 3/16, a 1/4, and a 5/16 hole. This guy works great when you're creating banners, tabs, bookmarks. If you need a real tiny little hole, you've got this guy. It also does those clasps that you wrap the string around. So this guy works pretty good. What you do is you choose the size that you want, and then you're going to pop your card in there, and you're going to squeeze, and you're going to get a hole. It's a tiny hole, huh? It does really, really, really well. I've never had a problem with this guy. I've had them for a while, and I have not had them not work. And I have arthritis, and I have a very hard time squeezing things. But I am telling you, this guy here, very easy to do with both my right and my left hand. And the other one that I have, this does shapes. It has an arrow, it has a hexagon, a star, a little flower, and a heart. So this guy does really well if I'm doing a shaker card and I want specific elements in it with specific colors. I have used this for that. I've also used it to punch holes when I have a folio happening that has something that you need to pull. And then I would put this little arrow in here, and they would know, whoever had it would know that that pulls out. So these guys have a few different uses to them. This here is called a punch board. And there are lots of them out there. They have blade storage here. And the way this guy works is this is a tab punch board. So it makes tabs for like files, for like a Rolodex. And it also does tabs like this. If you wanted to put tabs in your Bible, say, you could use this for that. I mean, they'd be pretty big, but you could do it. They also do paper. They'll do a folder in paper. Like if I were making, this is just a piece of scrap paper. It's not very thick. So hopefully it's still going to work. How this guy works is it has a punch, which is here. And then it has a blade that pops out and fits into this track. So you put the square, there's a square end and a blade end. So you really have to be careful. This blade sticks up pretty far, if you can see it. Let me move it closer. He sticks out pretty far. So you could get a pretty nasty cut with this guy. They're very, very sharp. And underneath of this arm, there is a little track that the blade goes into and runs along. So when you put the blade in the track, you have to make sure, and I did it backwards, you have to make sure that the blade is actually sitting inside of this track. And then we have two different, this stores here, but this is the punch for the tab. So, and it only goes in one way. If you try to put it in a different way, it's going to stop you so that it goes into the correct way. And this is how you create a punch. So we're going to put this here and we're going to punch it down. And then we can take this out, move it over there. And then I can make this. They have 3 different sizes, a small, a medium, and a large. I'm going to go with the small for this one. So I'm going to line up the paper exactly on the board so it is nice and tight, nice and square. And I'm going to line it up to the shape that's over here. And if I get it exact, we'll have a beautiful, even punch that's at the end of the board. Now, I then take my page and I place it into the punch board. I move the blade away from the tab that it just cut, and I cut the paper. And voila, there's the tab. I'm not real crazy about these, like that they have this little hump thing right here. I'm not real crazy about that. So I don't tend to use this to make tabs for a folder. Let me show you the way I use it. I use it to make tabs for scrapbooks, for little recipe cards, stuff like that. I do use it for that, but I use it a different way. So what I do, grab this again, pop him back in there. The way I do it is this. I leave a nice little edge on there for myself. I think we've got, no, we don't. Might be stuck. He might need some freezer paper. I think he is stuck. Nope, there we go. And what this does is it blocks it from you going over too far. And then I'm going to punch. Okay, and I have that little ripple thing. Now, put this back in the drawer. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to line it up to the small again. And I'm going to punch it. Now, I'm not going to waste all this paper. I can't. It's just not in my blood to do it. I'm going to cut it off. And then I'm going to take it over to the tab maker, put it in, and slide the blade in. Now, hopefully, I'm not going to cut the darn thing off because I can't see what I'm doing. I didn't. Good. All right. Now, I have to either take it to a paper cutter because I didn't cut it exact because I used a scrap piece. So I'm going to take it over to the paper cutter and I'm going to give it a cut. And then I'm going to give it another cut. I'll give you the measurements to do this in a minute, because this right here, this way, is absolutely a hard way to do it. So then I have a tab here that I can open up, because I do it on a folded sheet, and I can glue it to the edge of a piece of paper or a folder like so. I had an example on my desk. Oh, here it is. I can do these. This is what I do for like a recipe card. They may be a little smaller than usual, but this is how I do them. I do my rectangle. I take a 1/2-inch score at the bottom, and what I'll do is, for a recipe, is I will glue this part inside the book, and then I'll come right next to it and glue the other one, and then glue the third one. And what happens is they stay down, and then these flip up. So that's how I have used it. That's probably the main thing that I use it for, and to make individual tabs like this. Like I said, I don't do the big folder. Right after I bought this, I realized that they had punches that did exactly the same thing. But I had already bought this, so we kind of stick with this. We don't use it very often. I think if I did it over again, I probably would have just went with a punch on this one specifically, but definitely not the next one I'm going to show you. This guy is one of my favorites. This is a frame punch board. And what this guy does is he makes a picture frame for a round of photo. I put a back on this, and I put some acetate inside just so you could see how useful this can be. You can put this guy on the front of a card with a photo in it, or a gift card. You can do lots of things with this guy. So I'm going to show you very quickly how he works. Same thing. It usually starts with the punch. On almost every board that I have, it starts with a punch. So we're going to punch the 4 sides. And someone said in a video that I saw when I was researching this guy, because this is a newer one for me as well, that they save these little pieces and use them for boots. So we're going to push them aside because I'm actually going to save them. So it cuts it like this. This is what it does. And then you use this piece here, which is kind of tough to get out because of the size of it. So you just kind of have to pull it out. This guy here and each one of these marks depends on how large you want your frame to be. So I'm going to go about here. I don't want this guy to be too large. And then this is going to come down. You're going to put your blade on, but you want to be careful not to clip the edges. You want the edges to stay the way they are. So you're going to put your blade in, and you're just going to cut along that line. Lift the blade out, turn the page, pop him back in again, run him across, and just do that all the way around, and it'll make the cut. And why? Oh, because it wasn't up high enough. I have microphone vision. All right. So this guy pleasantly stores in here, but falls out all the time. So I don't leave them in the board. So I left the shape around this guy because you can do it like this, or you can do it like this by putting it down just a little bit lower. And it says it in the book that you will have to trim on some of these that cut out. Not every time. This just happened to be one of those times. And this is pretty flimsy paper. So, okay. These guys, I do not recommend storing in your punch boards because they fall out and you do not want to step on that. Set that aside. And here is my picture frame. You can put it on top of another piece and have it like that. Or like I showed, you can put it on the top of a card. It makes two shapes. It does this one and this one. So I think that is a pretty cool tool. Not as cool as the next one. We have two of these. We have WeAre's new punch board, and we have my favorite, which is their older one. Now, they both look exactly the same. They do. But this guy, for me, seems to be a little different than this one. The sizing on this one works better for me. I don't know if it's because I've had this for years or if it's just because I'm not doing something right. So I'm going to demonstrate this one because this one always works out. This is actually an envelope maker. It is by WeAre Memory Keepers, but if you try to find this one, you won't find it. It's discontinued. You would have to get the other one. And the other one for me is super, super hard to read. This guy is real easy because it's got light on dark. This one, they did dark on light, and it just, I can't read it. This gold that sticks up here, I just can't read it as well as I can this bright white. So I tend not to use that one. So what it has is it has measurements on it that tell you your card size, your paper size, and your score line. And what they're talking about when they say score line is this little ruler right here. So let's say I wanted to make an A2 envelope. I need an 8-inch, what is it, 8 1/8, I think? No, I'm sorry. I need an 8.5 by 8.5 square sheet of paper. So I'm going to grab a piece of scrap because I don't need an envelope right now. 8.5 by 8.5. I'll just put this guy in bin. All right, open this up. Let's go. 8.5. This should already be 8.5. But I'm going to check it. Always check your sizes because look at that. It was a little bit off of 8.5 by like maybe a 1/16 of an inch. Okay, put this back for now. Okay, so now what we do with our A2 card base, it wants us to score. I'm sorry, I have to lift it up because I can't see. I have old eyes. 3 3/4. So this is the only time you use the ruler is when you very, very first start out. So we're going to put this guy at 3 3/4. And you really want to make sure that you get this measurement exact because your entire envelope depends on it. So what we're going to do after that is we're going to punch. So we punch a hole. It comes with a little scoring tool, and I'm going to use it just because of the video. And some people come from here. I like to go this way with it, and I know a lot of other crafters that have this board do it the way I do. So that's how I do it. And then what happens is you have a score guide, and that score guide is this little lip that's coming out. So you want to put your score line in that thing, that little lip. You want the score line to be right in it, not on this side of it, not on that side of it, but right in it. You do not want to use that ruler. So many people make the mistake of using the ruler. The first time I used this board, I kept using the ruler. I didn't read the directions. I really should read directions sometimes, but I didn't in this case. So I messed up a whole bunch of envelopes. So we make a score there. I forgot to punch it. So you punch it and you make a score nice and deep. And then you turn it again and you just keep going. So you punch it and you make your score. Come to the last one and then line it up. And I'm going to punch it. And then I'm going to make my score, which is right here. Okay. The back part of this rounds off all of these triangles. So if you don't have a quarter rounder, and you have a punch board like this, an envelope maker, it will have a corner rounder on it. Colleen, I think, uses hers as a corner rounder. So there we go with that. Now I don't need this anymore, so I can put this away. I always make sure that I put this little folder back because it goes on the bottom here, so that way I don't lose it. The little bone folder. I just don't like losing parts. So now that it's scored, it's quite easy to fold. Let me go back to my bone folder. It's quite easy to fold. Quite easy to get the paper to go where it's supposed to go. It takes a little bit of time to do these. Now we have a Cricut. Cricut does them pretty quick. It cuts them pretty quick. So we use the Cricut for them as well. And then you just apply some glue. I might need to refill this. Apply some glue. There we go. To your envelope to glue it closed. Just a little bit. You don't want to put a ton on there because you definitely don't want it to get inside of the envelope and seal the envelope. So I kind of rub my finger along it before I put the paper down so that that doesn't happen. And I also make sure when I'm gluing it, I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of held these sides in when I pushed it down. I do that because I want there to be a little bit of a give to it so you can get the card in it so it's not such a tight fit. That's just me being me. And then, where's that one we just made? And then your A2 card goes inside the envelope. Fold this down, and you can either tack it with some glue or a sticker or something like that. But it makes a very nice and neat and clean envelope. So that is the punch board for the envelopes. So the last one that I want to show you is called an edge punch. And this guy has little guides on it, on both sides of it. You slide your paper into here to make your cut. And you can do it from the side or you can do it from the center. If you do it from the center of your page, you wind up with an even design all the way across, ending each side exactly the same. So that is usually how I do it. So I push the paper against this, has a little lip here. I push the paper against this lip like so. Okay. To make my first punch. So I'll make my first punch and it looks like this. So now if you look and notice on the side here, there is a guide that shows us where to put the first couple of marks on this edge punch. And then you punch again, bring it over, making sure that these are lined up and that you don't push this design part. Because if you see, your paper has a divot in it now. So you want to make sure your paper still stays straight. And you can do that. Where am I? You can do that by making sure that these scallops line up exactly to the punch. Okay. And then I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the other side. But I'm going to purposely mess it up just to show you something. So lining these up, making sure they're exact, and I make my punch. Now I left a divot. I left a piece there. I'm going to show you how easy it is to correct a mistake on here and not have anyone notice. So I missed this piece right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it back in there. I'm going to line up my scallops perfectly. And I'm going to punch it. And it didn't screw it up. It's still a very pretty decorative edge punch. And these guys are so nice if you have any kind of card that you want to put just a tiny little scallop around. It looks really nice if you do it in a pattern paper as well. So those are the punches that we use at Scissors to Paper. I couldn't show you all of them. There would not be enough room on this desk. But I gave you a nice variety of the different stamps that are out there that we have in our studio. I really hope that this video taught you something about punches. I hope that you enjoyed watching it. And if you did, go ahead and subscribe. We love new subscribers. You guys are so important to us. We're a new content creating studio. So any likes, any comments, what we can do to make things better, I would truly appreciate it if you put them below. Hitting the subscribe button, there's like a party at my house whenever we get a new subscriber, the way that we cheer and stuff. I wish you guys could hear it, and maybe one day you will. But we get super, super excited when we get a like, when we get a subscribe. It just means so, so, so much. I want to also tell you that Scissors to Paper has on Facebook, we have every Friday, we have a live show where we do a simple craft. I tried doing folios. They just take too long to do on a video. I'm not that quick with it yet, but we make cards. We do other crafts on there a Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of giveaways, and I personally invite you into our Facebook group, Scissors to Paper Crafting. We're very easy to find. Look for us in search. And I really hope that you had a good time with me today. I thank you for sticking it out with me to the end. I appreciate you. And I have one more thing to say to you. Happy crafting.